Well, for more, let's bring in Fox News contributor Hugh Hewitt. Hugh, it's so great to hear from you. Thank you very much. I want to circle back first just to the news from the top of the hour before we get into this other stuff that we were just talking about with the senator, because the news out of Iran and what's being negotiated at the White House seems pretty significant. Your take on what we heard from Trey Yingst at the top of the hour and the details that are emerging right now.
Well, good morning, Jackie. I listened closely to Trey and also to Senator Hagerty, the president's closest allies in the Senate. Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton reposting Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Bill Hagerty just now. These are all very close allies of the president. They're all very worried, and they know that the president is a great deal negotiator. He's done hundreds of deals. He's also walked away from probably 3 times as many deals as he's done. So he's very good at the close. He's not going to get taken. The Iranians have a history in this particular crisis of coming over-promising and under-delivering. And therefore, President Trump has told his team to walk away in Oman. He told them to walk away in Bangladesh or wherever they were, Pakistan. Mm-hmm. He tells them to walk away when the Iranians attempt to trick us. So, yeah, people who want Iran humbled and defanged are very much afraid that they get something without giving a lot. They shouldn't have any control over the Strait of Hormuz. That was what Senator Graham said and Senator Cotton reposted. I trust the president understands that. I am going to wait and hold an opinion until we actually see details. But everyone who's been aware of Iran for 47 years knows they are not to be trusted, even though this is the D team, and President Trump had the A, B, and C teams eliminated. The D team is still not trustworthy. And I think what you hear from Senator Hagerty, Graham, Cotton, Cruz, be very, very careful, because the legacy media will attempt to paint anything as a loss for President Trump. So don't give them, the Iranians, anything unless you can absolutely be confident that the American people will see it as a win.
Yeah, it sounded like from Trey's reporting, none of the funds would be released, none of the sanctions would be waived until some of the sticking points were pushed through. And that's, I think, an important piece of this. But of course, we got to hear from the administration more broadly. This is all just emerging this weekend. But I want to also ask you about, this issue with the economy in the background, because you had some uncomfortable polling this week for the president with the midterms right on the horizon. His approval rating sliding on the economy. Overall, his handling is at 29%. That's down from 34% in April. He got his lowest marks on inflation, only 24% approving. That's down from 35% in January. Concerning piece for the midterms, given 51% of Republicans disapproved on inflation, that likely will not help turnout. How do those numbers compare with 2018, the last midterm that the president went through?
They're roughly similar, but there's a big difference. The thing that's driving the fall in the president's number, gas prices. A temporary deal with Iran will not lower gas prices. A 90-day negotiation will not lower gas prices because the markets won't be reassured by a temporary deal. And therefore, that's a false positive if you think that's going to help with gas prices. It won't. The president's base is extraordinarily strong. He doesn't want to crack it. They approve of Operation Midnight Hammer. They approve of Operation Absolute Resolve. They approve of Epic Fury. They approve of the blockade. The one thing I don't think he can afford to do is crack his base. Mm-hmm. And therefore, coming up with a 90-day deal, I think that threatens to crack his base. President's very, very savvy. This is what his critics never seem to get. Land developers are very, very savvy. Presidents who've been in office for 6 years have seen it all, and they've done it all. He's walked away from a lot of tables. If it's a bad deal or the Iranians do the bait-and-switch deal, he will walk away again, and I hope combat would resume, but that the blockade stay there until we get absolute. Actually, I would like the blockade to stay there until we get all the enriched uranium from Iran. That's the key. But right now, we just don't know. I just don't think the president's going to get fooled.
Okay. And just with about 30 seconds left, we were talking with Senator Hagerty about this reaction to the anti-weaponization fund. Thune indicated that might have something to do with the broad unease with the president's endorsement of Ken Paxton over John Cornyn this week. How big of a deal was that endorsement, and is Texas actually in play for Democrats?
If if Ken Paxton's the nominee, I think Tallarico can win. Tallarico couldn't win against John Cornyn in 100 tries. It's a layup for John Cornyn. I think the Senate really likes John Cornyn. He came in second behind Thune for leader, and they're probably upset. I think Texans might assess that, and I'm not putting this in the win column for the very flawed candidate that is Ken Paxton. I think John Cornyn might surprise on Tuesday, and if he does, I think the president would actually be happy with that result, because Tallarico is going to raise $1 billion to expose the flaws of Ken Paxton. John Cornyn, it's a layup, and he makes layups.
All right. Hugh Hewitt, always great talking to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.